This is Suit Up Sports.
Suit Up Sports.
Where opinions are as sharp as a tailored suit. No fluff, no gimmicks, just unfiltered, hard-hitting takes on sports and a whole lot more. It's time to suit up. Now here's your host, DJ the Suit Stout.
Welcome to Suit Up Sports. I'm DJ the Suit Stout, along with 10-year NFL vet Frank Garcia. Frank, how you doing?
I'm doing great, buddy. It's a 4th of July weekend. Looking forward to being a little kid. I know a lot of dads out there. My brother is a huge 4th of July guy. Like he enjoys it. He doesn't take time off for Christmas for his family. He doesn't take time off for Thanksgiving. He doesn't take time off for anything else except for 4th of July, because when we were kids, we would go blow shit up everywhere, and he turns into the biggest kid out there.
Does he just go load up on fireworks?
Buddy, when they were looking for weapons of mass destruction years ago, they were looking in the wrong place. They were in his garage. I mean, literally.
Does he do it in his cul-de-sac right there?
So everybody in the cul-de-sac gets together. They pull some money. And they're right there in the Indian Trail, which is a little suburb.
Yeah, I've been
right
in his house because your brother also has a huge garden. And
taught you how to kind of
taught me some things, yeah.
So yeah, they get that cul-de-sac, all the families in there. They put tables out. It is a traditional, like, throwback 4th of July, where they go out there and they just light stuff up, and everybody watches and enjoys. And honestly, it's as good as a lot of big fireworks shows that you have to go wait in line. It's right there in their backyard.
I tell you, man, I like 4th of July a lot too, and just from the cooking and all this, the fireworks I used to love. And Dylan sitting over here producing our show, and my other son Connor, when they were little, we lived in Monroe.
Oh, you love fireworks. I remember. I'd come over.
Yeah, we could blow up everything out in Monroe. We could shoot guns, whatever we wanted to do. And then we moved into the South Park area, and we don't have the room to do it. So I guess it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, I went and loaded up on fireworks. I'm like, we're going to do it, but we'll just do it in the middle of the road out here so we don't set anything on fire. And we go out in the middle of the road and we shoot all these fireworks off. Were you here for this?
I remember this.
I think you might have been here. And
fire. Yeah, go ahead.
And so we blow them up everywhere. And my garbage cans are full. So the house next to me had been rented out and it was dormant at the time. So we go grab their big plastic garbage cans and we fill them up and we roll them back and we water down the stuff, whatever. Next morning, I was going to Key West, so I was going to the airport, and I was waiting on my wife to get downstairs, and she was taking forever. And I see this little old lady come walking across the street up to my truck, and I'm going, and she had complained the night before about the fireworks, something, and she's just coming back for round 2, and I just took it, she was just really nice little old lady. And she comes up to my truck, and I'm like, hey, how are you? And she goes, good. And I said, I'm sorry about last night, and she says, well, you're lucky that I get up early in the morning. And I'm like, oh, really? Why's that? She goes, well, I got up at 6 in the morning and I was walking into the kitchen and I looked out the window and those garbage cans next door were completely engulfed in flames. And I went, what? And she goes, yeah, I called 911. If the fire trucks didn't come, it would have burned that house down and your truck down and everything. And I was like, what? And I walked around over to where those garbage cans had been, and all that was left were the 2 metal poles that held the tires on there. And this little old lady, rest in peace, by the way, she passed away probably a year after that, but she saved me. I mean, I remember that whole day on the way to Key West. I remember thinking, oh my God,
what could have been?
What could have been? I could have burned that house down. So I've not bought fireworks since then. And now we just walk out onto the golf course. I know. And we watch all the ones go around.
I guess the moral of the story is you can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy.
That is 100% true.
This is like the biggest excuse in the South for rednecks to shoot shit off.
Yeah, it is.
Drink and
right.
shoot at the same time. Normally, if our guns, we're not drinking, right?
Right.
We know the damage, but we don't think about that
fireworks.
When it comes to fireworks. My brother and I, when we were kids, there's nothing that I get more satisfaction out of when he's sitting his fat ass on the chair, right? And he's just enjoying his beverage. And I sneak up behind him with one of those black cats or those little M80s or I think they're M40s or whatever they are, but they're the big ones, the cherry bomb. And I'll light one of them off and he's not expecting it. And it'll be right underneath his chair. And I just stand back and just watch him jump.
Man, we were a couple years ago, we were sitting at my pool with our neighbors, Mike and Carly. And all of a sudden we hear this loud explosion. come from their front yard, and we look and we see smoke all over, up in the air. And so we go running out there, and somebody had put something in their mailbox, and it blew it to smithereens. And so we see the kids, they look like, probably 16. We see them running. And so we go running after them. And I make it like the first 50 yards, I'm thinking, man, I'm still pretty fast. And then the 75th yard, I tore my calf muscle, like a sniper shot me down. So I ended up being on crutches for about 6 weeks after that. So fireworks, now I just enjoy watching other people do them. But I was like you, we would get Roman candles. You'd be shooting them at your friends and all these. Don't do this, by the way, if your kids watching this. But
we were reckless as kids.
Oh,
remember
man.
The bottle rockets?
Bottle rockets,
rockets, you'd sit there and hold them in your hand until it got down to the wick, and as soon as it started to ignite, you just hold your hand up and let it go.
And people lose fingers and things like that every year.
Here's the funny thing, right? White people do stupid shit sometimes, right? I mean, this is very stereotypical of like cultures.
Yeah.
Right. White people are probably, when it comes to fireworks, the dumbest people out there. Right. Mexicans fall second line. I'm Hispanic. My culture, we would blow. We'd have fireworks every 4th of July, and it's not even our holiday. We just like blowing shit up. It was just an excuse for us to blow stuff up. But the black people, man, I'm telling you, they stay far away from those fireworks because they know that that's just dangerous, and they leave all the stupid to us.
Well, it's true. A lot of my black buddies would come over and they'd be, "No, y'all handle that, man. I'm good. I'm gonna watch you dummies do that.
It's like
I'm
hunting,
good.
Anything to do with guns or fireworks or things like that.
Yeah,
I'm all that's all you guys.
Yeah, that's that famous. What is it? The last line from most white guys before they die is, "Hey, man, watch this." And that's about right. That's about right.
And the reason why, and I can't remember the viral video that's out there with the black guy in the wheelchair.
Yeah, that's hilarious when the fireworks,
and he couldn't get away.
Couldn't get away. And,
and it just starts going.
Well, and Jason Pierre-Paul, who was a great defensive end for the Giants, and then Tampa Bay, he blew off a couple fingers messing with fireworks a few years ago, and it kind of
before the season started.
So they are dangerous. So be careful, but they do make for fun stories down the road. We got a special guest coming on here shortly. Brentson Buckner played for the Panthers, the Steelers, the 49ers. Clemson, you did
Clemson Hall of Fame.
Clemson Hall of Fame. You did a radio show with him for a long time. He worked for me for a long time. He's coached in the NFL now for years and years with Jacksonville and Arizona and the Raiders and I think Tampa Bay. And he's just a football dude. Loves football.
He also was a high school football coach, up north where his son Brandon played. And his son Brandon and my son Garrett grew up together. And I got some great stories with those two guys, kind of going and speaking of redneck stuff that we did, taking him to a Coca-Cola 600 one year. And, he didn't leave my side and we just walked around the infield, had a great time. But you want to talk about just a good, loving dude that loves the game.
He does, man.
He loves people. And I remember some of the times we would do the show and he would get in there and he's very knowledgeable. Knowledgeable about a lot of different things.
No doubt.
And he was the one person that really told me my favorite saying right now, Frank, if it's not about money, right, you got to ask the question again. Right. Mm-hmm. And the other one that he used to say a lot was money doesn't make you smart. Money doesn't make you famous. The money doesn't make you this. All money does is make you more of who you are.
Yeah.
Right. And I learned a lot from my good friend Brentson, and I also probably got under his skin quite a bit.
Oh man, we can tell that story.
You probably remember.
Oh man, we'll tell that when we get him on. But
the phone calls that would come into your office.
You guys will go at it during breaks, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm a tough dude, but what am I gonna do with these two guys? I ain't gonna better break them up. They'd kill me. And but yeah, so he's
got some great stories.
Great stories, and just we're gonna talk to him about just the state of the NFL, the Panthers, the division itself, the Falcons, and whoever else. But
even some bigger ones that a lot of the Panther fans will really relate to with Sam Mills and their montage of Keep Pounding. He was original guy there on that team, so he'll be able to fill us in on a lot of those things. Yeah, so we're looking forward to having him on 4th of July, our 4th of July show, and just kind of reminiscing with him and diving into some football. Did want to, we talked more Hornets the other day than we've talked in a year of doing the show or whatever. Isn't so? Before we get into it a little, isn't that kind of indicative of the state of your team, right? It feels like most fans, and we did radio shows forever, and I remember when the team was really good or on the precipice of being really good, the fans would call in and want to discuss. They'd want to talk. It reinvigorated the fan base and really got them interested in what was going on.
Yep.
And I can tell you, I have been so disinterested, and I think a lot of it has to do with our Hornets, with the NBA. The NBA playoffs this year have really, really jump-started my curiosity again for being a part of an NBA fan. Because as a kid, we've told this story a bunch of times. You and I were huge NBA fans.
Yeah.
Loved everything about it. Right? We wanted to be in the NBA.
Yeah.
And then we realized we were white and too short, and we couldn't shoot.
I don't know this Hornet team right now. He's signed about 7 white dudes.
Well,
so
we couldn't shoot. We weren't as athletic as those guys are. But the good news is, DJ, is that the fact of the matter is we're talking about it. That says volumes. And even after drafts, when they drafted Adam, nobody really cared. When they drafted Kaminsky, nobody really cared. When they drafted MKG, oh God, people were pissed. Either you're going to be pissed and talking about it, but that only lasts for so long. But when you're interested in it, this is what people are, wanting to kind of get their curiosity. And we all have that hope. It's why they call us fans, to build it up. Yep. Just so we can be disappointed and knocked right back down to the earth.
Well, and with the Hornets, it's been so long since they've been anything. And not only just from a win standpoint, but just from a front office standpoint, from a good draft standpoint, from a signing a free agent standpoint, they just sit there and exist and lose and are awful. And their players don't play. But I'll tell you what.
Not only that, even worse. Is not only were they bad, they weren't entertaining.
No, exactly.
Right? I've rooted for some bad teams. So have you.
Yep.
My sons used to be bad, but they were entertaining. They had guys that could flat out play. They played a fun style of basketball. The Hornets and the way that they had been going for the last 4 or 5 years, it wasn't they were just bad. Is that they weren't even entertaining. At least Melo. I would give him credit for that. When he plays, right, he's entertaining.
Yeah.
And people want to go watch
when he plays.
He plays.
Yeah, rare.
But he's an entertaining player. So even if they're not going to win championships, the fact of the matter is if I spend $100 on a ticket, I want to walk away feeling like, you know what? We lost and I'm disappointed, but there's always the next game, and that was pretty fun.
And listen, the draft we talked about last show with Con Knippel and Liam McNeely, Sion James from Duke, who we love, and then Ryan Kalkbrenner, the big center from Creighton, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year in that conference. First time that's happened since Patrick Ewing. So we all love the draft. They got rave reviews for their draft. But since the draft, and this is what we're not used to with the Hornets, is they have remained relevant in this each news cycle. They went out and they made a trade for Pat Connaughton from the Milwaukee Bucks, where they got him and 2 second-round picks for Milicic, who wasn't even going to play for us. Connaughton, by the way, Notre Dame kid, can shoot the lights out, scored 45 points in Milwaukee's last game of the season. Then we go trade for Colin Sexton, the great point guard out of Alabama, who was on Utah, started off in Cleveland, averaged 17.5 points a game, can shoot the ball, pass the ball. So they get him for nothing for a center on our team that really wasn't going to play. Then they go sign Spencer Dinwiddie, who's a great backup guard.
His last name again?
Dinwiddie. I know they got some of these last names are tough, but he was on Dallas last year, averaged 11-12 points a game, but has always been able to shoot the ball. And then they re-signed Trey Mann, who we talked about before he got hurt last year, was in the running for 6th man of the year. So they've done a great job. And right now, with the East being as open as it is due to a lot of these point guards being out, people are excited. And here's the thing that's got me excited is that, and I don't think they're going to let me down right now. Normally I would say, Hornets aren't going to do anything. But everything you keep reading, because they're stockpiling guards. And they also signed Mason Plumlee. They brought him back, which gives him a good backup center who, not that he's going to be great, but for 12, 15 minutes a game, he'll get in there and bang around. He's not scared. But a lot of people.
He gives you some presence, 7-footer.
Yep, 7-footer.
Still decent athlete.
Yeah, he hustles. He can run the court. Yeah. But the rumors out there that there's something bigger coming, and that's why they're signing all these guards, whether it's to trade one of them, whether it's to trade Melo, whether it's to trade Miles Bridges, is a lot of the rumors, to go get a center from, they've talked about Claxton from New Jersey or Allen from Cleveland, but they're making it sound
I already know who it's going to be.
Who's that?
Probably the best white center available, because I tell you, if the Hornets don't win anything, at least they're going to win something, and they will be the whitest team in the NBA.
Well,
and I don't know about you, but I've seen basketball my entire life, and a bunch of white guys playing together, they better be at Indiana or they better be at Duke, right? Because those are the two schools that have had any success that have won.
It is funny, social media, and it's been black guys, white guys, it's been analysts.
It's just a stereotype.
It's been pretty funny, like having the coach look down the bench and it's like 12 white nerds, or there's a bunch of funny things on there.
And his buddies.
But regardless of what color these dudes are, I mean, they're bringing in guys that play. And Sion James, from Duke, or Dinwiddie, or Con Sexton, these guys play, and they're there every night and they hustle. And these are the kind of guys the Hornets want on this team, especially coming off a year when Melo rarely plays and Brandon Miller was hurt the whole year, and I mean, so on and so forth. So I'm excited. I would love to see them drop a big trade July 4th. That'd be great. Maybe this weekend, but the rumors are that there's one big move coming. Who knows what it is? But
and you know what the best thing about this is, to me, we've been around sports our entire life. We've coached it. We've developed players, young players, to get to the next level. And the next level being, maybe high school, right? That's about as far as our talent went in baseball. In football, they can go on a little bit further. And some of the things, and the point of this is that the nice thing about this, what we've seen, and I don't care if it's middle school, high school, college, pro, whatever it is, when you have a guy at the top that understands that he wants to build to an identity, and he's going to get his players to assimilate towards that and work together to be able to do that, at least you have a brand and you have an identity.
Mm-hmm. And
I feel like for the first time that I've been here in this city in 30-something years, maybe early on, when you had Bogues and Curry and Grandmama, you had an identity.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe with Kemba and, some of the players that he had when they made that run right before they became the Bobcats. And then, that whole time you had a little bit then. But since then, that was 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
We have not had an identity or a brand that we can say, this is what we're going to get night in and night out. We're going to get hardworking, tough, physical, athletic, fun, hardworking, good character guys that are going to be in this city, which is important for our brand and our identity as a city.
No doubt.
Because the people that are going to go watch want to root for good people. Right? I know that. You know that. And I feel like that's the one thing that at least we've seen with championship teams at every level, is they have a guy at top that understands an identity, that is finding guys that fit that, right? And they're building towards that. And we have never been able to say that, or at least in the last 15 years.
It's been a long time.
A long time, way too long for this city.
And, Jeff Peterson, the GM of the Hornets, and we compared it to even Dan Morgan. Both general managers of both teams seem to have a game plan, and they seem to be putting their money where their mouth is, and they seem to be following a blueprint that they laid out. And we're not used to seeing that as Charlotte sports fans. So hopefully, I mean, could you imagine both teams in the playoffs at the same time? I mean, my God, that would shock the world. And right now, there's a chance that maybe both the teams could make the playoffs. I know the Panthers probably, I think people, if you had to take them after the moves the Hornets have made and how wide open the East is right now, I think maybe you would lean to the Hornets getting in this year before the Panthers, but you can make an argument. There's people picking the Panthers to win the division.
I don't know, buddy, because I mean, I'll tell you this, what we don't know, because we haven't seen the full body of work yet, but I'll say equally as excited, I know you are, for the Hornets and what we're talking about right now. A lot of people are equally excited with the Panthers.
Oh, yeah.
Why? Since the history of this organization, they have never had an offensive-minded head coach.
Yep.
They have always had it, from Dom Capers to John Fox or George Seifert to John Fox to Jeff Davidson to You fill in the blank.
Yeah.
When they went out and got these guys.
Coach Ron Rivera,
another one, went to the Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
When you see these guys and the identity of who their coach was, it's always been what? Because I know this about defensive coaches. They're always going to be a little bit more conservative on the offensive end because they rely on what they know, and that's defense.
Yep.
So you're not going to see you didn't see the 4th and 1s and the 4th and 3s. I know Riverboat Ron got his name, but he also had Cam Newton.
He also was doing that when he was trying to save his job.
That's right.
He was getting ready to get canned.
It was not in character for him.
Exactly.
He developed a character that was not in character, and that's why it worked for him. But since those guys, this is the first guy, the coach that we have now, Dave Canales, has really put together an offensive identity.
Yep.
Right? We have a good wide receiver. We drafted a wide receiver. We have a number 1 overall pick at quarterback. We have a really good running back, very solid.
2 now.
And now we have another one.
Yep.
And we have a stable, strong, well-built offensive line with experience, pedigree, and toughness.
Yep.
Right? So on the offensive side, I think there's not many teams that we're not going to compete with. There's going to be times that we don't, but the nice thing about it is this, what's I think bringing the excitement, bringing back full circle to what my point was, is that we have an identity on the offensive side that we've never had before. Not even with Cam. With Cam, it was still play defense. He's going to get you the first downs and the touchdowns with his legs.
Yep.
And he made it exciting.
Yep.
But we really didn't have an exciting offense, a wide open offense. I think we're going to see a little bit more wide open offense with some motions, with some more college style plays, that read option, the kind of the wing tee motion, jet veer, things like that, reverses.
Yep.
With Canales than we've seen in a long time. And I think that's what gets people excited, in the NFL, because the league has changed and shifted from defense to offense.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And, Panthers training camp opens, I think, in 3.5 weeks. So we're getting close. And we're going to take a quick break and bring Brentson Buckner on. We'll talk more about the Panthers, the NFL in general, but getting his take on the current Panthers, and then some great stories about when he played with the Panthers in the Super Bowl, as you mentioned, Sam Mills, and some of those cool stories right after this. Today's show brought to you by Neogenics. Frank and I are both very familiar with neogenic stem cells. If you're not, you can check out more on neogenicstemcells.com. You can call them at 704-727-6551. That's 704-727-6551. Frank and I both have been patients at Neogenics for years, as well as Thomas Davis and Harold Varner and Matt Doherty, and we can name all the athletes and non-athletes that have gone there. I know I've had my family go there. You've had your family go there. But if you have aching joint pain, your neck, your back, your elbows, your shoulder, Frank's had your back.
I've had my back and my neck. And I tell you, for anything arthritic that you feel as a weekend warrior, they're going to be able to help you out. And the best thing about what they do at Neogenics is they're not going to give you the runaround. They're going to let you know if they can help you.
Yep.
Or if they can't. They're not going to try to just fluff something so that they can make money.
Yep.
That's the thing I really appreciate about Nico and his team.
Yep.
Is that they build championships, and they build them through honesty and integrity and hard work and commitment and all the things that we use in sports world and on these shows. They do it every day at Neogenics.
They do, and some of the competition in that field do not do it that way. And Neogenics, you're right. If they don't think they can help you, they're not going to take your money. They're going to be honest with you. I've had my elbow done there. I had a shoulder that was aching. Couldn't lift weights or play golf for probably 6 months. Went in there. They did their magic with stem cells and PRP, and within maybe 5 weeks, I was back at it. I watched them do your procedure on your back, and Frank's back had been, jacked up for years and years from playing in the NFL so many years. So any aching joint pain, they've got you. Neogenicstemcells.com, 704-727-6551.
Check them out today.
Tell them DJ and Frank sent you.
It's time to suit up. Here's your host, DJ the Suit Stout.
Welcome back to Suit Up Sports. I'm DJ the Suit Stout along with Frank Garcia. And now we're welcoming in a good buddy of ours and a special guest and football guru, Brentson Buckner. Buck, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing good. How you fellas doing?
We're doing good, man.
Good,
It's
buddy.
4th of July weekend coming up, so we're doing this show, and then Frank's going to go to his brother's and blow some things up, he said, and I'm not sure what I'm doing yet, but
Buck could speak to the demographic. The thing that we were talking about a little earlier is like how, you can't take the redneck out of these white guys when they want to go out there and blow shit up, right? Some guys just, the Mexicans want to do that, even though it's not their holiday, like myself, we want to blow shit. The brothers, the black guys, they're smart. They're the smart ones. They sit back and watch everybody else do stupid crap, right? And they just sit back and laugh.
Oh, yes, definitely. I know definitely I'm sitting back. I participate in watching. I'm not throwing nothing. But, Frank, shoot. We celebrate on Cinco de Mayo, so let's all jump in on our holidays.
That's true.
There you go.
That's true. Cinco de Mayo. Something tells me Cinco de Mayo celebrations are going to be a lot less this year.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll still celebrate, but
every Mexican restaurant in the area is like, damn it, took them again.
It's going to be a different ball game. It's going to be a different ball game next year. So, Buck, you mentioned this is the first year that you haven't been coaching, and we were talking a little bit earlier on our first segment about your NFL career, and then you've coached in Jacksonville and Tampa, Arizona, Oakland. You've remained in the game. You love the game. You have a passion for the game. How was that first year not coaching? How was that, man? Were you finding yourself restless and wishing you were out there, or was it kind of nice to have a year to relax?
Well, at first you start off being able to relax. It was great because I played 13 and coached 12. So that's 25 years.
Wow.
A rigmarole.
Yeah.
So, but then as the season went on, the competitive spirit started to go, and I'm watching games, and I'm finding myself watching it as a coach. I can't enjoy it. I'm looking at bad technique. I'm looking at stuff that I would do different. So it was kind of hard. But as it went on, mentally, I was able to take a break, was able to get to a bunch of my son's games, which I hadn't been able to get to because I was coaching. So it made it worthwhile.
Yeah.
Buck, I know you spent time, as an NFL player from city to city. DJ talked about, Pittsburgh and San Francisco and Charlotte and, kind of all over the country. As a coach, you do the same thing. But you're back here in Charlotte now. What brings you back? Why did you choose Charlotte? I know your family had strong roots here, and, you went to Clemson, but why Charlotte?
Man, Charlotte was great to me. My years I spent here as a player, and even when I retired, the people here in Charlotte, so they embraced me, as far as, the stuff I was doing in the community, and just great friendship. And me and my wife always said that, once it was all said and done, we wanted to move back to the city. My kids were pretty much born here and raised here. And so it was a chance to move back. And, we was looking forward to it. So now, being an empty nester, I can have a house here, and then when I go coach, I can go coach and come back to my house, because normally when I was coaching, we always stayed where I coached at because the kids were in school and we didn't want to move them back and forth. So this was always going to be our retirement home. So we just wanted to get it started before I officially retire.
What so you want to get back in coaching? So after this year, you think you'll try to get back in and get back on with the squad?
Yes, definitely. I coached in the NFL, but now, sitting out, my son, this will be his last year in college football. I want to go to college. I want to try my hand in the college football arena. I'm more of a teacher than a coach. And I think once you get those guys young, 17, 18, coming into school, you can help them build that foundation, especially now with the way the money is. So I got a lot of knowledge with that because they're like NFL players. They get paid as much as I was, and I was a second-round draft pick. I got a lot of knowledge. I can help prepare them for the next level. So I definitely want to get back in coaching, but on the college level.
Bucky, not only are you teaching these young men things, you've taught me a lot as a co-host and a friend of mine, through the years. And, one of the favorite things that you taught me was, you had this line about what money does. Money doesn't make you smarter, doesn't make you stupider, all money does is make you more of who you are. And that's a great lesson you can give to these kids, because it was something that really kind of hit me, right in the heart. Is like, people are going to give you all these things because you got a little money, but what you give them is what the important thing.
Oh, yes, without a doubt. And that's the scariest thing about what's going on in college, even high school now, because NIL has trickled down to high school, is that you got to have some kind of financial literacy, about yourself. Because at 17, had you given me $100,000 or $1,000. Let's just give me $1,000. I would have spent it on everything except for I need to spend it on.
Yeah.
I would became this big airheaded kid and anything. So, it's really a scary situation. It's great for the families and for the kids because now they're able to monetize their likeness and the things that they do for colleges. But we got to educate these kids. If not, they're going to go down a dark path because let's be honest, Frank, everybody's going to college that's getting paid, not going to get paid in the NFL. So this money could help you jumpstart your life after football is over with if they get the right kind of education about the financial literacy and how to do it. Understand you got to pay taxes on it. You're in a tax bracket now. I went in a tax bracket until I was 22. Coming out of high school at 17, they already in the 39th percentile.
Yeah.
So we got to educate them. If not, it's going to be a lot of heartbroken kids, grown men, a few years down the road.
Well, Nick Saban, I saw an interview with him this offseason, and he made a good point that I had not thought of. And he said, most people who don't play athlete, are not athletes, don't play college ball or pro ball, they start their career, and the longer they work, the more money they make over the course of their career. These kids, it's the opposite. They're making the most money they're ever going to make in their lives right away in a lot of these cases. So if they don't know how to spend that money, if they don't know how to save that money and put it away, then 3-4 years after playing ball, they're going to be broke. So you're right,
It happens on the NFL level. You figure you got guys that went to college. They got financial advisors that are finding themselves in financial trouble once they're done. Just imagine a 17-year-old kid. I think I read something. I think the number one quarterback in the country is right from up in Greensboro. They already said when he graduates from high school, he's already worth $10 million.
God almighty.
You know what I'm saying? $10 million. He should never have to work again if he does it right.
Yeah.
But like most people know, when you make a lot of money, guess what your family say? We make a lot of money. So you want to go help a lot. It's hard for a 17-year-old to say no, just like it was hard for a 22-year-old to say no.
Yeah. So
you got to be very cognizant of the things you're going to do. You got to set yourself up right, and you got to put yourself around people that understand this money here might have to last you a lifetime. And it's a great head start. $10 million at 18 years old. That's a great head start.
Yeah.
If you do it the right way.
Buck, I know the challenge for people that would come into us in these NFLPA meetings, we'd sit there and say, okay, yeah, blah, 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 blah. We'd listen to these meetings. Let me just get out and go to my Mercedes Benz. Let me get out and go to my, my F-350 pickup truck and drive away and go, because I don't want to hear it from these people. What is it? What needs to happen for these kids so that message is different? Is it mentors like yourself? Guys that have played that they can look at and say, gosh, this guy really understands what he's talking about, because the stats don't lie, right? I mean, 50% of people that played in the NFL get divorced, go bankrupt, or, commit some sort of crime, right? Yes. And those things don't lie. So if you start that, like you said, 10 years younger, 12 years younger, that money doesn't last forever.
They got to have people, the right people in the right place. Because believe it or not, it's a lot of grown adults that are taking advantage of these young kids. And you got to have the right mindset as a guardian, as a parent, to make sure you put your child or your niece or uncle in the right situation and get them around the right people. And I think, honestly, the NFL is going to have to get involved in high school sports, because this is your feeder. This is your feeder system.
Yeah.
They go from high school to college, then to you. But if they start falling off after college and stuff start getting bad, then it's going to hurt the end product, which is the NFL. So I think in the next few years, you're going to see the NFL start to do programs like they do for the incoming rookies. You're going to have high school symposiums that's going to teach financial literacy. And if I'm a parent, if I got a high class, a high star, a football player, a basketball player is going to get some money, you're going to financial classes. Outside of school, I'm gonna put you in some financial literacy, or probably put my whole family in it, and just understand, for every $5 you make, Uncle Sam gonna take $3. So you have to understand what that true bottom line number is. But it's gonna have to work out. But the scary thing about it, it's gonna have to hit rock bottom before. That's how the NFL work and the NCAA work. They let everything go badass wrong, and instead of doing some preliminary work and get the ball rolling, it's going to hit the ball. And that's why a guy like Nick Saban gets out. Nick Saban wants to coach football.
Yeah.
he said he didn't want to sit in the office. He's talking about getting better for next year. And the guy's like, oh, I need $300,000 more because someone asked me money. You know, that takes not the old school coaches.
Yeah, you're right. Have you I remember when you worked at WFNZ back in the day, and I want to say maybe it was Brandon Graham, but I remember you would work with some of these kids coming out of college to get them ready for the draft. And I think wasn't Brandon Graham maybe one of the guys that you worked with, who he went on and had a great NFL career. You know, just hearing you talk about that right now makes me think that, you know, if I'm Debo Sweeney or somebody, I'd have a guy like Buck in there talking to these kids.
Sweeney? Dabo Sweeney?
Debo. I just watched a video of Debo Samuel working out, and he looked like he gained about 40 pounds of muscle.
And he turned white.
No, but I just was watching that video, so that's why I said that. But you know, I would have a guy like Buck talking to these kids, and I'm sure you still probably work out with your, at least our mentor. Your own son's playing football, right? So you might have like a new business opportunity right there to start up Buck Enterprises.
Yes, and I'm always willing to talk. I always think I was blessed to go through things I did because I'm willing to give the information back to the guys. And you know, through my I'm back doing personal training now because it's a way I can control my schedule a little bit more. And that's what I'm trying to teach the guys about stuff other than football. And you know, I'm getting a chance to touch a lot of young NFL guys, a lot of high school guys, and some college guys, you know, right now with the training. I'm just trying to give the information as much as I can because that's what they need. They need to hear the good stories. They need to have the bad stories. I got bad stories. You know, I can admit I'm one of the guys that's dried all season. Oh, I want that car. Well, you just got a car last year, but I want that one.
Yeah.
You know, just to have it for 5 months and go buy another car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I try to tell them, and the good thing about it, most of these kids will listen, especially from ex-players, because it's like we always talk about the fraternity. They'd rather hear from somebody that's been where they've been than somebody who hadn't done it. So, you know, I think anytime if you're a veteran player and you can touch these kids in high school or a retired player that come in contact with these guys, you need to really share that information to them because they are like our little brothers. And you want them to avoid the pitfalls that we had.
No doubt. Buck, I know you're a good coach, but you're a great dad, and I saw that firsthand with Brandon, and you bringing him up, and I still remember the time that we went to the Coca-Cola 600 and took our boys there to watch that and show them something in the infield, and the looks on their faces and the looks on our faces and all the things that were going on. We couldn't believe it. But how's your family doing? How's Brandon doing? How's your daughters? I know Brandon, you talked about being in, I saw some pictures of him on, I believe it was Instagram or somewhere, maybe Facebook, but he's gotten big. He kind of taking after dad there.
Yeah, he's doing well. You know, he graduated in December, so he's finishing his last year as a grad student. So, you know, I'm proud of that because, you know, we always talk about getting that degree first. Football gonna be with it must. So he's enjoying life. My oldest daughter, she just graduated from medical school, so she's a surgeon now up in Pittsburgh. She's doing her dream. She wanted to be a surgeon. That's what she went to school for. So I'm happy about that. My youngest daughter graduated from Oregon State. She went back and got a master's, and she's the head of athlete development at Oregon State. So she just got back from the Dominican Republic, where they went down there and built houses and worked with an orphanage. And so she's over all sports, you know, at Oregon State, as far as off the field, career development. So man, I'm blessed. The kids are doing good. My wife did a great job.
Well, it sounds like that. It's time for dad to retire. Let these kids start taking care of you. You took care of them. So, I mean, they're going to start giving back.
Oh, I'm letting them get their chips up a little bit. And then I'm going to start making phone calls at night asking for, you know, hey, I'm about to go on this trip to Vegas. I need $1,500. Let them get their chips up. But, man, we're so proud of them because they're all doing what they wanted to do. And that's the only thing we ever ask. Whatever you set your mind to it, come up with a plan, stay with it. We're going to help you as much as you can as long as you follow through with it. So we're proud of that.
But let's let's get back to when you were with the Panthers, because Frank and I were talking about this a little bit as well. And I want to talk to you about the current Panthers and some of the free agents they brought in, because I know you've coached against these guys. Heck, you might have even coached some of them. But, this year they went pretty heavy on defense because they had the worst defense in the NFL history last year. The year before that, they went heavy on offense, which seems to be moving in a good direction. But back when you played with the Panthers, obviously, me, you, and Frank have a lot of things in common. One of the things is you and Frank both on different Super Bowl teams lost to the Patriots, so we all hate the Patriots. But when you played with the Panthers, was a special time, obviously, in Charlotte. We had a great team, a great defense. I mean, that defense that you played on, that defensive line, I mean, I don't think we've ever come close to having a line like that since then. But one of the things that I was reading, and Darren Gant wrote a story with you, I think it was last year, and I was reading some of that, was about Sam Mills. And I'd forgotten that, you were on the team. Everyone knows what keep pounding is. If you're a young Panther fan, you see keep pounding, you see the guy, the players or the celebrities hitting the drum before the game. And most people probably know that it has something to do with Sam Mills, but they probably don't know the origin or how it all came to fruition. Tell us a little bit about that, because you were there. You were there when that happened and when that whole thing got started. And I don't think a lot of people know exactly what happened.
Well, Sam was a great player here, but also was a great coach. And, one of those ex-players of winning the coaching that really taught you about life. And, through the whole year, Sam never missed a practice. He never missed, and it was the same Sam Mills we always know,
Yep.
Hyper energized, lovable. And so John Fox always, the Saturday before games, he always had a player or a coach talk. And he just talk from the heart. And Sam, let us know, he's like, man, y'all don't know, but I've been battling cancer the whole year. And we like, what? He's like, yes. He's like, I go get my chemotherapy in the morning. I come to work. I try. He like, I never wanted sympathy. I'm not going to lag around. He like, I told myself, if I can't be who I am all the time, and then I just stopped coaching. So he never let on. We didn't know until we was going to into the playoffs. I think it was the first playoff game against the Dallas Cowboys that we was having at home.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, one thing I always told myself, no matter what I go through, I'm going to keep pounding. That's all I know how to go. I'm going to keep pounding. So that just resonated. Everybody said, we just got to keep pounding. We don't care what the score is. We're going to keep pounding. And it grew from there because that was inspiration. Sam was a well-loved coach, not like loved coach. Offensive guys, defensive guys, special team guys. And so everybody pretty much had tears in their eyes. And we was like, we're here complaining about how we got to practice, we're in pass today. And here go a man that's going, fighting this life-threatening disease, and then coming out here and giving his life and all his energy to us and not letting on about nothing, not asking for no kind of sympathy. So that's how it all started. And we just carried it throughout the playoff. And then it became the motto for the Panthers. Once Sam passed, is that keep pounding. No matter what you're going through, keep pounding.
Yeah.
He went back, and that day he talked, he's like, man, we went 1-15 2 years ago. He like, I just tell myself every morning, I'm going to keep pounding because it's going to get better. And so to help a lot of us that went through that 1-15, we was like, oh, that's something we can rally around. And so that's where the origin comes from. And man, we just wish to this day, we could have finished the job in the Super Bowl, because that was a made for TV type movie.
You ain't lying.
But Sam was so great, man, and that will always be dear to my heart that I was there to hear the origin of it.
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely an inspirational coach. I know as a teammate, I played with him for 3 years, and same type of thing, Buck. I mean, he never complained about anything. Probably one of the most cerebral players I've ever played against. He knew where the ball was going before the ball got there, and this is not scripted. I mean, he could sense things very similar to what you see a lot of these great players, have that ability to do. And that's a gift, that's a talent. But on top of that, when he talked, everybody listened. And, I remember him, my first year in camp, he was a middle linebacker. We were running like a two-hole play, which is a, dive right behind myself. And I'm a young player and he's playing the linebacker. I'm going to kill this little guy, and he comes up, and he hit me so hard, DJ. I buckled to a knee, and I kept my feet driving afterwards, just like out of, just kind of, just habit, right? I was like, oh, just keep driving, don't look stupid.
Yeah.
And I fell down forward, but I got up, my face mask was broke, and it was a steel metal face mask. He had hit me so hard he broke my face mask, and I knew from that point on, I was like, this little guy has a pop, not just with his presence, but with his words. And just I'm inspirational person, and to fight a disease like cancer. I know my dad passed of that.
All three of our dads passed away from cancer. Family. And Buck, you had a scare with it yourself, right?
Yes, my father passed away from prostate cancer, and once your father passed away, you become high risk. And I went and did the early detection, and it was detected. And so I had the operation. We called it early enough. I get the operation and overcome it and have it removed. But yeah, so I understand that. Yeah, because having that's one of the calls you don't want to get.
Doggone right. You doggone right.
You don't want to get. But thank God for the early detection, and it's a big thing. But it's touched a lot of people. Us three, and it's several. I got teammates that it touched, family wise or even them personally. So it's a real tough subject.
It is. I mentioned the defensive line that you played on with the Panthers, and you played on some really good defensive lines in San Fran and in Pittsburgh. And I know Frank actually played against you.
He played on the best defensive line the Panthers have ever had.
Yeah, was it the best defensive line you ever played on all the teams? Because you played on some good ones.
I think as a 4-man front, yes, it was the best. Even though the one I played in San Fran, we had Charles Haley, we had Chris Dolman, BY, but Charles and Chris was toward the end of their career. But far as just young, energetic guys, you figure I was 31 and I was the oldest by 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Young freaking Julius Peppers, a monster in Chris Jenkins.
Yeah.
Mike Rucker, who was the businessman. I was the unsung hero of that defensive line because he always put up numbers. But then you had the Al Wallaces, the Shane Burns, the Kendall Moorhead, the Kemp Rasmussen. We were so deep. We were so deep, but it was a young group, a young hungry group too.
Yeah,
and I remember playing against Buck as a player too. And when he was mentioned that San Francisco team, I mean they had a 3-man rotation that would rival anybody. They had Bryant Young, Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Dana Stubblefield would have been in the Hall of Fame had not other things taken place. Buck's a borderliner as well. So I mean that 3-man rotation that we played against in the old NFC West was as good as anybody you're going to play. You play with some great players, Buck. Who's the guy that you looked up to as a player when you went through those guys have to be up there?
Well, those guys were great, but the guy that really brought me along and really taught me the game was Kevin Green. When I got to Pittsburgh, Kevin Green was an outside linebacker who played next to me. And I was starting as a rookie, so I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
About it, but Kevin Green literally for a year and a half walked me through every scenario and really helped me build a foundation as a player. So he was like a big brother. He was like a big brother to me as far as even though I found out later on I was a sacrificial lamb for all these stunts that he wanted to do so he could get sacks. But he really broke the ice with me. But then the rest of them, like I said, Charles Haley, I could never give it. Charles Haley taught me how to train. He taught me how to work out, pre-practice, after practice, mentally how to watch the game. Because Charles Haley was a guy, he had seen so much football, he would come to the D-line meeting with a blanket and a pillow and go to sleep. When we went to practice, he knew every play. He knew, the team we was playing, what their formation was, what the offensive line coach liked to do. And I was like, wow, this is the other element of the game. You got to get the mental part up because once you play in this league 2 or 3 years, you should know every blocking scheme you're going to see. Now it's a matter of just regurgitating information. So I was blessed with a lot of NFL Hall of Fame knowledge, playing next to me or around me.
I don't want to incriminate the man, Charles Haley, but I heard a rumor that he went to a meeting one time, buck naked, and sat in there buck naked. Now, I don't know if you were part of that meeting, Buck, but I've heard
was every day. That was every day.
Every day.
You're always in for a surprise. It got so bad the D-line coach was like, please let him be asleep when we get in the meeting. He was going to destroy the meeting. He was like a bad kid. He was Dennis the Menace of the NFL.
Well, obviously with you coaching as much as you've coached over the last, 12, 13 years, and us talking Panthers now, who, last year they showed some improvement. First time they've ever had an offensive-minded coach, which has been fun for us to watch. Bryce Young showed a lot of improvement the second half of last year and looks like maybe he can be the guy to lead this franchise from an offensive standpoint. They've added yet another wide receiver in Ted McMillan. They've got an offensive line that was, ranked top 10, 15 last year. And then in free agency this year, they went and Dan Morgan rebuilt the defensive line. He brought in some horses, Wharton from Kansas City, Bobby Brown. We got the 2 defensive ends they drafted, Scorton and Princeton. I never can say his name right, but the kid out of Mississippi, Ole Miss, Umanele, or however the heck you say it. What are your thoughts on what the Panthers are doing? And there's a lot right now. You're starting to see these TV shows where analysts are trying to make their sleeper picks and teams to watch, and the Panthers are popping up on a lot of those, which kind of makes me nervous because with expectations, you never know how a young team's going to be able to handle it. But what are your thoughts on what the Panthers are doing, what Dan Morgan's doing?
I think that the great thing he's doing is constructing that offense around the height of the quarterback, getting him bigger targets. We saw this with Drew Brees. If you go back and look at Drew Brees, his slot receivers were big because Drew had a hard time seeing over the line of scrimmage. So Drew wasn't gonna get no taller. So you got him bigger wide receivers. So he could see him coming across the middle, getting speed on the outside, but then also building from the trenches. And I think that goes back to because Dan was a part of the 1-15 team, and that's how Fox built the team. He built it from the trenches out. It wasn't a whole bunch of big names as far as offensive line wise, but it was guys who wanted to do the dirty work. And he went and got the defensive line that could do the dirty work and then build on the outside after that. So I think they're doing a great job. I think the best thing that Dan Canellis did for Bryce Young was sit him a little bit. I don't believe just because you're number 1 pick in the draft, you got to start from day one. Because if you're the number 1 pick in the draft, you're going to a horrible team. Let's be honest. You're going to a bad team. And I don't believe in players learning from scars. Because sometimes the scars can be too deep and it can scar you for life. You look at what happened to David Carr. When he was scarred for life, the battering he took. But I think once they allowed Bryce Young to sit down, he was able to sit back and say, oh, that's how it's supposed to be. Oh, that's how, because they had a good backup who had won games in the league. So he got a feel of it because he is a special guy. Throw his size away. He is a special guy. That's why he was the number 1 pick in the draft. So I think the way they're building this team now, and then by adding Harold Goodwin as the offensive line coach, who is all about running the ball. And then it's the threat of the run that's going to open it up for the pass. So I think they got a good combination and some good chemistry building over there.
Buck, on the offensive side, I'd agree with you. I think they're probably a top 10 offense, even with talent, even albeit young. The car is going to go as the engine operates, and that's Bryce Young. He's going to have to be the one that, turns the key and makes everything go out there and do it. But the defensive side, you talk about Dan. You played with Dan. Yes. I think he still has the all-time tackles in the Super Bowl with 30 something or whatever it was. It was
26 solos.
Yeah, 26 solo tackles, and a lot of that had to do with you guys. But speaking of that, right? The linebacking core for the Panthers, to me, is the most underwhelming of any linebacking core in the NFL. And I think for me, that's the concern on the defensive side. I think they have the guys up front. They're going to be able to keep guys off of those backers to make plays. So it'll make a average guy a little better, but they don't have that superstar. They don't have a Beeson. They don't have a Morgan. They don't have a Kuechly. They don't have a Davis, in that second unit and those linebackers to be able to maximize, those tackles and minimize those windows when they get maximized.
Yes, you said the key word. If your D-line plays as good as they can, it's going to elevate the play of those guys behind them. And what you're hoping is one of those guys hit their stride and be like, oh, I know I'm protected up front. Let me go become a star. That's what happened when we put Will Witherspoon back there the year Dan got hurt. Will Witherspoon was 215 pounds, underwhelming, like what he's going to do. But Will Witherspoon found out, I'm not going to get touched. I got this D-line in front of me. Yeah. Let me go make plays. So when he hit his stride, then we came back and put Dan together. They became a dynamic duo. So that's what we're hoping to build. But like I tell the fans all the time, I talk about the Panthers, Rome wasn't built in a day. We went 1-15, 7-9, then we hit our stride.
Yeah.
So you can see them going in the right direction. And that's what I like about Dan. I see Dan has a plan that he's following and he's sticking to it. And that's what being in coaching, that's the hardest thing, because you do get pressure from the fans. Everybody want to win. But you got to understand, you got to build it the right way. And Dan's job is to see this team, what it's going to look like 3 years from now. And I think they're building in the right direction as long as they don't have no hiccups and you continue to add pieces here and there. But what you do hope, one of these guys that's an unknown guy, he mess around, he pops out on the screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what happened because we lost Mark Fields. Nobody knew who Greg Favors were.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we knew Greg was. We respect, but Greg Favors came in and we didn't fall off. And Mark Fields was an all-pro linebacker. So you're hoping that one of those guys hit their stride, they're young enough, and they build, and you just count on playing on the energy. A young team with a bunch of energy can overcome a whole bunch of mistakes.
Yep. Let me ask you this, not about the Panthers, but you mentioned something about scars, and you don't believe that a player should learn with scars and how it can ruin a career, and David Carr's a great example. But a guy that went to Clemson just like yourself, and a guy that you were on the coaching staff with in Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, has not lived up to what everyone thought he would be at this point in his career. And he has some scars. He's been on some bad teams, and he's had to stand in there and take a beating time and time again. And you saw it from the sidelines, while you were there. Do you think that he's got the talent where he will be able, now with a new coaching staff and a new scheme, and they have put some players around him, do you think that he's got the ability to overcome that? Or and I know it's kind of putting you on the spot, but a lot of people think that maybe we've seen the best of him and that the scars maybe are too much to overcome.
I think Trevor has talent-wise, he is a talent. I think what's holding Trevor back, in just my opinion, is he's had so many coaches. He's been in the league now. This is his fourth offensive coordinator, probably his fifth quarterback coach. Even when we was there, he had 3 quarterback coaches in his ear. Mike McCoy, then he had Doug Peterson, then he had this guy. So Trevor needs to hear one voice. Hear one voice. And Trevor's thing is the learning to play the game of quarterback. He has the skill, but Trevor needs to find out everything is not a touchdown. Nobody check down. Take what they're giving you and grow mentally. He's not going to get no bigger, no stronger, no faster. He got to grow mentally in the game of football. And that's where most quarterbacks take the bigger jump. When the game slows down mentally, you know what the defense is trying to do to you, and then you can take advantage of it. So I think that's what Trevor needs to grow.
Buck, Cam Newton said something the other day about him being the originator of the mobile quarterback and things like that. And I know you may agree or disagree. I don't know, but you played against Mike Vick.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's a different animal back there. And the point that I want to make, though, is that you look at that position in particular. We're talking about Trevor Lawrence. The ability to run the ball at quarterback, the ability to escape, the ability to extend plays has really been kind of the thing and the trend in the NFL. Whether it's Jalen Hurts, whether it's Lamar Jackson, you fill in the blank. Even Josh Allen, all have plays where they run the ball, where they have impact on first downs or touchdowns in a game. How much has that position changed, and how important is it to have a player that has the ability to use their legs to get first downs or touchdowns?
Oh, it is. From the time I came to league as a player, everybody was a steel deer. You knew that quarterback was going to be at 7 yards. He couldn't outrun you with your shoes tied together. So you got a chance to hunt. But now, starting with Michael Vick and even Steve Young back in the days, and those type of guys, Mark Brunell,
Randall Cunningham,
they make you play 11-on-11 football. And a lot of times, the 11th guy that's trying to catch this quarterback is not faster than him. So I think now the NFL is about possessions. I hear offensive coaches talk all the time. We need to be able to steal 2 or 3 possessions, whether defense, you get the ball back, or quarterback, move the sticks. And it is good because you begin to wear the defense down. And I can tell you as a defensive coach, you got the greatest defense in the world, but if you keep on marching it out there, the offense is going to find the holes. They're going to find the weak link. So I think by having a quarterback that can move the sticks, like he don't have to run for 1,000 yards like Lamar Jackson. That's just special. But 3 or 4 times a game, he can turn that 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 5 to a first down and get you more snaps. That's cooking with fire. You know what I mean? That's going to help any offense become better, and it's going to weaken the other team defense.
And Bryce Young is a much better runner than he gets credit for, and he's also very good at getting down, so he's not getting killed. But you bring up a valid point. I was watching an interview with Kevin Durant the other day, and he said that the days of 6'2", 6'1" guards are pretty much gone. That it's going to take a special player like a Kyrie Irving who can score over 7-footers, or he named 3 or 4 guys, but he said that those days are pretty much gone because from a defensive standpoint, they're just going to isolate you every single time. And it got me thinking, in football, it's pretty much the same thing. Like in 5-7 years from now, there won't be any quarterbacks that can't run. I mean, you got guys now playing quarterback that would have been a receiver or a DB or a linebacker, and now they're playing quarterback, and they can run like Buck said, they can run faster than the linebackers that are chasing them. When you coached, obviously you've coached, like we named the teams, and you've been a player and a defensive coach. What players on the offensive side of the football right now in the NFL scared you the most as a defensive coordinator, that when you were putting the game plan together, you're like, oh, it's going to be a long day with this dude?
Running quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Because you get them in third and long, you get them in 35, 37, you got dogs that want to hunt up front. But if you get a guy like a Josh Allen or Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson, you have to rush under control. And my whole thing as a D-line coach is, what we're trying to control, we can't catch them.
Yeah.
So you might well pin your ears back and go. So, but that's the all-night meetings that go on in defensive meetings. The defensive coordinator, we got to rush under control and keep our eyes on what? To watch them run for a first down?
Yeah.
So they keep you up all night, those running quarterbacks, because these offenses now they get you, they spread you out. They got in their mind 1,001, 1,003. All the wide receivers run to one side of the field. Now the quarterback is left with a one-on-one tackle. You're not tackling Lamar Jackson one-on-one. Kyler Murray, as small as he is, you're not tackling him one-on-one. Josh Allen will run through your face and make you miss. So those running quarterbacks, they add an element to the game, especially with the college zone read coming in. You know what I mean? So you have to be more disciplined. It used to be once or twice a year, but now it's everybody. Everybody has the zone read. Even if they don't run it, that quarterback is looking at that end. If that end bites down on that die, he's pulling it, getting there 5 yards.
Buck, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I can't remember another situation that matriculated up. Everything, that since I've been alive, has matriculated down from the NFL. This is what we're going to do. So the colleges are going to mimic what the NFL does, and then the high schools are going to mimic what the colleges do. That position really matriculated up because what started happening, kids in Pop Warner, coaches would put their best athlete at that position, and just like Buck said, let them just outrun everybody. You couldn't tackle him. You send guys deep, and you just let them run behind it. And then that started matriculating up because it was only statuesque quarterbacks that would play the position, and you had to be able to make reads, throw the ball from within the pocket. And you still have to be able to do those things, but they're teaching these great athletes how to do that a little bit more efficiently. And that's the one thing I can think of, Buck. Maybe there's something else that has matriculated up.
No, you're exactly right about that, because it came from the pressure of you're drafting these athletic quarterbacks and you're making them sit the bench to learn their system. And it started with Cam when the Carolina Panthers took their offensive coaching staff to Auburn. Let us learn what you know, and we implement it so you can go. So that's what they're doing now. When I came in the league, the quarterback sat until he could run the system, because quarterbacks back then, they just got run the ball here. The quarterback had to know the formation. They had to know the personnel they wanted. They literally called all the plays. But now you get these athletes, and you're just like, we're not going to sit him on the bench and let him wait to learn all our terminology. Let's turn it over to him and run what he knows. And so that's the one thing they're doing, because all the great athletes are playing quarterback in high school. Patrick Peterson was the number one option quarterback in the country coming out of high school. Then he becomes a future Hall of Fame defensive back.
Yeah.
Let you know how great these athletes are. So these coaches, like, we can't wait. Our fans are hungry. They got to see some success. So let's change and run what they run. Now, it puts a lot of stress on what you got on the team. Like, because if you built your team for one way, then you get a quarterback that can run. Now you got to change it, so it makes everybody else have to speed up. But the most important guy on the field, the quarterback, we want him to be comfortable. And we're going to run what he can run so he can put numbers up so these fans ain't calling in on these shows asking for our head.
So you mentioned that, you want to get back in coaching after this year off, and that college is kind of, where you'd like to get into so you can be a mentor and work with these kids when they're young and new into the college football and getting paid. Is there any colleges in particular that you'd like to, that we need to make some phone calls to? Like, I know this, while you're in Charlotte, I know UNC Charlotte's football program could definitely use Buck over there. They've got a new coaching staff, and I know they just sold out the tickets, and they're all excited, and I hope they have success. But man, you got a guy like Buck sitting here in your backyard, and there's a lot of colleges around the Charlotte area, actually, from Gardner-Webb to whoever, that I'm sure would like to have you involved. So if you need Frank and I to make some phone calls, it might hurt you. I don't know.
Yeah,
It might hurt.
He doesn't want us to hurt his chances.
It might hurt your chances. But do you have any schools that you would like to get go join their coaching staff?
Well, I want to coach dogs.
Yeah,
You know what I mean, that's an enjoyable thing. I like to coach. I like to coach guys that want to be great. A lot of guys now don't want to be coached, and even on the NFL level, you got a lot of guys that don't want to be coached. They just want to be told how good they are and let them go play. And my whole thing was, I get paid to correct the wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I can pat you on the back all day for the 5 plays you did good, but what about the 15 where we got gas for 10 yards?
Yeah,
that's my job. So I love to coach guys who love to be coached, and that's gonna be one of my prerequisites. If I sit down and interview, I'm like, what's the mindset of your guys? Do they want to be coached? Because I'm not in the patty cake business.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, I'm old school to the point where I'm gonna call it out, but I hug you later. I tell you why I did it. But I like guys who come to me, coach, I messed up on these 5 plays. How can I get better? That's the coaching I like to do, because I know this guy's hungry and I want to feed him what he wants.
Buck, it's interesting you talk about this. I still coach high school over at Charlotte Catholic, and the mindset of a coach from when I started to where we're at right now has completely had to change just a little bit. The way you communicate, with what you're saying versus how you say it, right? You have to be more conscientious of how you say things now because of the fragile egos that these kids have. But let's stay at college real quick and talk about something to you. I know you're a huge college football fan, and Clemson is where you went. Bama's one of those teams that has stood the test of time and being great. Oregon is starting to come up. It seems to me like the teams with the most money are going to have the most success because of this NIL stuff. How much is that going to help or hurt college football?
I think it's going to hurt, because it's going to hurt the lower level schools. The lower level schools, because, all right, let's take for instance, at my son college at Middle Tennessee, he's transferred from Oregon. You have these big time schools that'll come ask their players and pay them money to come be backups at their schools. So you're lessening the talent on those type teams. So you're going to eliminate the mid majors, because all the good talent, they're going to start at the Power 4, and then the guys that normally would start at the mid majors, they're going to take the 300,000-400,000 and go be backups. Now, I hope with what the NFL has put in this like cap, that now it allows some of the talent to stay out and play. Because I always tell guys all the time, I talk to them, you want to play in the NFL, you got to get film. Yeah, you went to Alabama, but you didn't play but 1 game in 4 years. What are the NFL going to look at? When you could have been at a Middle Tennessee or Appalachian State or UNC Charlotte, and you could have got all the film you wanted, so now you can be evaluated. I just think they got to put so if you're going to pay them like NFL guys, you got to have NFL collective bargaining agreements. You got to have contracts, because this is one thing that I do that I think is hurting the game. DJ give me $1 million to come play for him. Frank needs me on his team. Frank give me $2 million next year, and I leave and go play for Frank.
Yeah.
You can't do that in the NFL. And guys, just believe me, if they do it enough in college, they're going to try to bring that same mentality to the NFL, and you're going to find yourself on the street.
Yep.
Because now the supply is greater than the demand in the NFL. There's only 1,600 jobs. So, you don't want this money? Oh, we'll go to the next guy. Now you're going to have a guy that loses his career because he don't know how to be loyal to where he put his name to a contract. Just imagine NFL, Frank, if they said, where you can go from team to team. I know times I had good games. I've been sitting right there, hey, 1,000, I'm gonna go play for somebody else. But you can't do that in the NFL.
Yeah, you'd be a free agent every year.
Every
year with the highest bidder, coming to ask for your service.
Well, we've talked about.
We'd be a lot richer, Buck. I know that.
Yeah, you would do that, and we talked about that, and hopefully they do harness that in because it's the wild, wild west right now, and you see it in football, you see it in basketball. I mean, Buck, you're an old school basketball, football fan like Frank and I, and we used to know every player on the team. When they got to the NBA, we could tell you where they went to college. Now we can't name the team every year because it's 10 new players on basketball team and 50 new players on the football team, and so they've got to figure out a way to harness that in, and hopefully they do. I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that it's getting to a point where even the big time coaches who have the money are saying, all right, we got to do something here. It's getting out of hand.
And Buck, you said something about DJ giving you $1 million. DJ has never paid you more than $10 an hour.
Well, I know Buck wasn't buying no new cars when he worked for me. I'll tell you that much. that the new car stopped at that point in time. But hey, Buck, thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. Football is right around the corner. Training camp start, in 3.5, 4 weeks, and would love to have you on. As much as you want. As much as you want, yeah, and we're going to do some shows on the road too, at some sports bars, and have you out there. And
we own a Carolina Steel bar right over here in Ballantyne, Buck. Love for you to come by and have a couple of cold ones or whatever you want to eat. But it's right over off of Ballantyne, and come on by and say hello.
In the words of QCB, party time. Party time. Yeah, definitely, man. Anytime, man. Enjoy talking to you. Anytime you guys want to, man, reach out to I'm always available.
Awesome, man. Well, welcome back to Charlotte, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Buck.
All right, one love.
All right, buddy. Peace.